agree with Alan Greenspan, we ought to just eliminate the debt ceiling. Oh, absolutely. We do.
The ability of almost every working American to access more credit than they should have been able to masked the underlying fact that lower and middle class incomes were not rising.
That's not a tenable strategy. Isn't now the time to eliminate it? Oh, we've been a long time ago.
Let's put aside terrorism. Let's talk only about our own homegrown animals that are patrolling America right now. So it goes down to the simplest thing. Be prepared, be vigilant.
Welcome into the Liberty Show, folks. How are you? Good day. Out here on the trails with the dogs, doing my thing, getting them a little exercise on a rainy day. We're getting the back end of Florence here in Richmond, and you know, it's an interesting thing to watch. Not surprising. We all knew it was coming down there, but I'll tell you what stands out as you watch 900,000 people without power. It's not so much preps, it's not so much prepping. It goes back to the importance of evacuation and listening to the experts. I know people bristle at that phrase, but when you see the full power of Mother Earth, you don't have many options, man. You got to hit the road. You got to have a plan, and you got to get out of there. You know, you see people's homes ripped off, roofs rather ripped off, and their homes filled up like fish tanks. You know, it doesn't matter what you have in that house. You know, the body armor, the guns, whatever it is you got. You've got to have a plan to get out of Dodge. And these hurricanes, especially on these coastal regions, they really highlight that. They really highlight the importance of that. You know, we're watching that personal level collapse happen. You know, it's not a collapse of society. Though, to be honest, we are watching that too, right? Are we? We're certainly watching a cultural collapse of society happen. That's a hard one to argue. Don't you think? The degeneracy that we're seeing in the world. And, you know, you like to think that it comes from some well-thought source, some enemy in a dark corner somewhere, someone who has thought these things over, planned them for years and decades. And a lot of people say that it's old men from the 1960s who are finally getting their way in the world. To be honest with you, I think we just underestimate 2 points. One, I think we underestimate how much damage the average person is capable of doing to a whole society. Because we underestimate how important and how hard it is to actually have a civilization and a society where everything goes as smoothly as it does, like in ours. Now, of course, it's not perfect, and it never could be perfect. And these socialists who think that it can are out of their mind. But God, it's it's about as close as I think it could ever get, right? You know, there's a lot of work that goes into making this thing work every day, the way it's supposed to work, the right way. There's a lot of work that goes into this. A lot of people have to wake up every day and go to work when they don't want to, when they don't feel like it. A lot of people have to go do jobs they don't like doing very much. A lot of people have to grit their teeth and be nice and be polite. Follow traffic signs, follow traffic lights. These are little things, but in tandem, they create what you see around you. So how is something like the cultural degeneration, the cultural apocalypse, or the cultural collapse of America started to take such a hold? It goes down to two things. I mean, it comes down rather to two things. And the second one has to be the fact that people are lost and they don't even know it. I'm not talking about big players in the game. Now I'm talking about the average person. The average person who's crying white privilege, the average person who's crying the average cry. Right? Life's not fair. Life's dull. Life's this, life's that. I have no chance. I come from this background, so I can't make it. What are you trying to make? What is the goal? Do you know the goal? Or do you just see somebody with a lot of money and you say, I should be that somebody? I'm supposed to be that somebody with a lot of money. That's supposed to be me. I'm supposed to have a good job and have a lot of money, pretty wife, big house, nice car. That's supposed to be me. It's the American dream. That's why these people, they lose their mind and they start talking about the American dream is dead. Oh, the American dream is dead. It's over. Oh, okay. Well, then I need to understand what's going on the southern border then. If it's so bad here and the American dream is dead and buried, in the same way they tried to bury God, then why are people still coming? Why are people still coming? What's the deal? That's a tough one to figure out for me. You okay, buddy? Bowser got something going on here in the foot. Did you step on something? I don't know what happened to him there. But anyway, back to the original point. The vast majority haven't been raised with religion. They haven't been raised with the Bible. They haven't been raised with God. And I know there's a lot of you out there going, oh God, here we go. James is turning into a zealot. It's not that. It's definitely not that. But I've given it much more thought than I ever have in my life. I have better mentors now than I've ever had in my life. And there's people out there who are digging into this thing in a way that I think we really need to dig into it. Giving it teeth, giving Christianity its due. You know what I mean? Giving it its due. Because with the Bible gone, with God gone, with belief in God, and all that comes with it, you can talk about the 7 things in the Bible that are atrocious. You can talk about the 10 things in the Bible that don't make sense, or the 12, or whatever it is. It was the manual. And I've said this before. We've taken the manual for Western civilization and we've tossed it. The manual for Western civilization has been tossed, and we never replaced it. We tried to replace it. Now listen, hear me out here, because this is in addition to my original thought. Almost took a spill there. We tried to replace the manual. And that was the story of the 20th century, right? The story of the 20th century were people who decided they could change it. Right? They could change it, we could figure it out, we'll run it our way. Said Hitler, said Stalin, said Pol Pot, we can figure this thing out. Oh yeah. We just have to lock a few people up, slaughter a few million, throw a few million in the gulag, and we'll be good. It's just what we got to do. But we'll figure out how to do it. We can do it better than the Bible and the gods and the prophets and all this. We can figure this out. So that's what we watched. We watched a society try to figure it out in the 20th century without God, without the Bible, without the manual. The problem is, when it didn't work out, we didn't snap back and say, okay, well, let's get things back on track. We said, okay, so we don't want the Bible to guide us. Marxism and communism can't guide us, right? This idea of religion and state combined, sort of similar to Islam, where the state becomes the religion. That didn't work. And then we floated. And here we're floating still. And that's the cultural collapse that we're facing. It's the float. We float here in our quote-unquote freedom. We just figure it out as we go. We just figure it out as we go. No big deal. We can figure this thing out. Yeah, we're doing our best. Just imagine how powerful Western civilization is. that it's through all of this, it's still working, it's still running, it's still growing, it's still getting better, it's still becoming, it's still offering incredible, undeniable opportunity. Yeah, we're trying to thwart it at every turn, right? Gotta figure out something better. It's not working. We gotta figure out something better. Where's Bernie? Get Bernie in here. Let's figure out how we can do this socialism thing again. We'll get it right this time. Don't worry. Don't worry, we'll get it right this time. There's something about Christianity, man. Listen, for a long time, I was not into religion. I was not into God. I was not into this idea. I'm not one of these people who's been at the pulpit my whole life. I was not into it for a long time. And even as I started to gather my thoughts on this thing, even as I started to find solace in some of the Bible, even as I started to call on religion when amazing things happened to me, like marriage and children, there were still massive parts of me that were unguided, because I wouldn't go to church. I didn't want to go to church. I had no desire to go talk to somebody I didn't know who was going to tell me how to live my life, or, that whole thing. Only to find out that he didn't know how to live his life, and he's been living it like a monster. Pedophilia, whatever else you want to add into it. But as of late, man, I'm finding my way. And this is important. It's important for me to tell you that this is possible, because there's a lot of people out there who all they really have to do is just figure out their way. And they're really, between Mike Spalding over at SoaringEagleRadio.com and Jordan Peterson, I've made it. You know what I mean? I've made it to a point, finally, where I can understand how Christianity's worked, why it works. Not only that, also finally reached a point where I can get behind it 100%. 99%. You know what I mean? I'm never really behind anything 100%. That's dangerous. That's a dangerous thing. But I can tell you right now, this thing has been thought about by people much smarter than me and broken down by people who understand it much better than me. And for a guy like me who's I needed an explanation in certain areas. I needed to understand that in order to be a Christian man, you are to wrestle with God the way Jacob wrestled with God. I had no idea there was such significance in my son's name until I got into that story, right, where Jacob literally wrestled with God. And when you wrap your head around what's going on in that story, it's an amazing thing. Because you as a person who has spent your whole life wrestling with these ideas, you go, oh, this is nothing new. This is nothing new. When people show up at your camp and they sit down around your fire and they tell you all these stories about this man named Jesus, or this entity or this power, and you say, I don't know about this, man. This doesn't seem right to me. That's when you come to the conclusion, oh, right, yeah. Yeah, you wrestle with God. Not only is that part of it, but that might even be it. That might even be the best place to be. Because for so long it's been, the idea is always drilled into your head. There's these hashtags, there's these key phrases. You hear all of the people say that make you a little nervous. And for a guy like me, there's things that they just don't feel right. It just doesn't feel right for a man like me to say, I've given my life over to Jesus Christ. And primarily that's because I don't even know what that means. I just don't. I don't need to. This is what I know. And this is what Peterson has broken down for me so succinctly. He's basically broken down what it is. What are the four things? What are the 4 pillars? Just like the I'm Liberty show has 4 pillars. What are the 4 pillars of Christianity? In a way, Peterson has broke it down for me better than anyone else. I'm talking about Jordan Peterson. For those of you who don't know who I'm talking about. All right, the 4 pillars. He talks about understanding, first and foremost, that you're a monster. And you're capable of terrible things. Right, that's number 1. You're a monster and you're capable of terrible things. And your effect on the earth can be radical. Just one person's a negative effect on the earth can be radical. And we've seen these single people throughout history do that, right? We've seen the Osama bin Ladens, the Baghdadis. We've seen people who have had radical negative effects on the world. It's undeniable. And it's much easier to have a massive negative effect on the world. The other is truth. The other pillar is truth, right? And it's the idea that you can do so much good with truth. And then the other pillar, the third pillar, I guess we'd call it, is courage, because they go hand in hand. Right? You have to have the courage to tell the truth. You have to have the courage to stand for the truth. These are radical ideas in this day and age. When you want to mush and mash and manipulate all the time. All the time it's manipulation. Is he a man? Is he a woman? Is he... You know what I mean? One simple example. Is it a country? Is it not? Is there a border? Is there not? Is there a national language? What is going on? Mish and mash and moosh. And these 3 pillars alone are enough for me to get behind. You know, that I can understand that. Right? Christianity is about truth, courage, and understanding that you're a monster. Understanding that it's going to take every bit of you to do right, day in and day out. But that's both the punishment and the reward. That's the sacrifice, right? That's Jesus on the cross. You wake up every day and sacrifice your total being to do what's right. That's the 4th pillar. My father's been telling me it my whole life. Right? Do the right thing, Jim. If you do the right thing happens. If you do the right thing happens. What does that mean, do the right thing? Well, you just look at the way civilization has existed for 2,000 at least years. Right? Or at least documented civilization. Through these ancient stories. Who knows how old these ancient stories are. You can argue they go back much further than that, because they're rooted in like Mesopotamian stories. And you begin to understand that this is the deal. This is the deal. You wrestle with God. You wrestle with, it's not a forfeit. It's not a forfeit. It's not the idea that, okay, well, I obey everything that is said in the text, and I do everything that is said, and I've given my life over to this cause. No, you wrestle with it every day. And that not only makes you stronger, it makes the religion itself stronger. Because Christianity is coming back to life. And it's coming back to life because people are looking at it and questioning it. Not because people are blindly obeying it. I wanted to talk to you about these 4 pillars of Christianity, man. Because it's changed me a lot. It's given me a confidence to sit in a place where religion is a bigger part of my life. It's given me a confidence to speak to my children about religion. It's given me confidence to open the good book and read it and feel better about reading it. And I can tell you right now, it's still the blueprint. Those 4 pillars are still the blueprint for how you keep this thing afloat. We'll be back soon and much more to cover on the I Am Liberty show. So 13 tornadoes touched down in Virginia yesterday. Oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. The timing with the record button can be amazing when you're podcasting in real time, in reality, not behind a desk, you know? Right now I'm on my way to my office, quote unquote, AKA the public library. It's become my new office now that I have extra time to work with my youngest in preschool. So I have an office now. I share it with heathens, but I have I'm just kidding. They're good people. They're good people. But 13 tornadoes touched down when I just got my side view mirror fixed. And I tucked my side view mirror in when I parked to drop my child off, and I just flipped it out, and a car drove by and almost ripped it off again. You don't know the temper that lurks inside, and that would have been a bad one. I might have had to leave record on for you, see. No, I'm just... Anyway, 13 tornadoes touched down yesterday. I mean, at last check, it was 13. There might be more. There's probably more. But 13 at the time last night. And I sent a tweet out this morning that said, Mother Nature she's really playing for keeps on this National Preparedness Month in September. Because we spent most of the first week preparing for Florence here in Virginia. We said, all right, Florence is coming. That's okay, right? We're ready. We have a base level of preparedness to sort of springboard off of. And I encourage you to do the same thing. And if anybody wants to know what a base level of preparedness looks like, maybe we create, I don't know, I could create an ebook for that. But I think that's very important. That makes snowstorms and power outages, thunderstorms, hurricanes, all that stuff. It just makes it a lot easier to prepare for, So we were okay there. We did a few things. I talked about them on the live show, so I'm not going to go into it again. If you want to check it out, just go to prepperbroadcasting.com. You may not know it. If you only listen to my show on iTunes, if you go to prepperbroadcasting.com, I think I have somewhere in the ballpark of 500 shows. Live guests, some not, live shows, and it's also a 2-hour long I Am Liberty show at prepperbroadcasting.com. It's live every Wednesday. It's a whole nother aspect of the I Am Liberty show, but content's pretty much the same. Content's pretty much the same as far as what we talk about. Obviously, the show topics are different here and there. But anyhow, talked about that on the live show. And then just a few days later, 2 days ago, I recorded the intro or some piece of this show. I'm not sure where it's going to fall yet, about my understanding and sort of my coming to terms with Christianity. And I really think you're going to get a lot out of that, or you may have already got a lot out of that. I'm not sure where I'm going to put that in the show. That might be the beginning of the show. That said, I'm thinking the show's going to go in one direction, and a day later I'm sitting in my pantry with my kids. I have a pantry that sits underneath the steps at the very center of the house, and that's our shelter-in-place area, and that's where we're sitting. We're sitting there as tornadoes touch down in Bon Air, which is only minutes from us. They touched down across the river. They touched down, it was wild. And of course it was the east side of the storm, Florence, hitting us and spawning off all these tornadoes, probably because of the heat, among other things. I don't know. I'm no meteorologist. Who the hell knows? But I can tell you right now, it was a great opportunity in September during National Preparedness Month to to get into shelter-in-place mode with the family. Now, Lady Liberty was stuck at work in the hallway. They were doing their thing. But we all gathered in there. We added a few things in there, right? It's hot in a pantry, so we took some USB-powered fans. You guys know I'm a fan of these USB-powered items. We took the USB-powered, or the USB-compatible, I guess it would be. It's not powered by that, but you get the chargers, you attach the fans, boom, put them in there. We took some gaming systems in there, and we hung out, man. We hung out for a while, because I wanted to be sure that we were safe. Things were getting crazy outside. There were tornadoes around us. There were tornadoes to the south of us, to the east and north of us. And I also discovered some things about my shelter in place that need improvement. And that's the whole point of this thing. The whole point of this month, this National Preparedness Month, is just that. So there was a life lost here in Virginia. It's very sad. A lot of destruction. People lost businesses, homes destroyed. Nothing of a magnitude that, well, whatever. Magnitude is relative, right? It wasn't Joplin, Missouri. But at the same time, it's still pretty bad for the people it affected, especially the people who lost someone. So we leave that behind us. We lay that to rest and we move on to the next chapter here. What is the next chapter? Well, the next chapter is a very interesting one, right? The day after the storm. Finish up the podcast, get back to the swing of things, but still focus on the fact that it's September, it's National Preparedness Month. And the vast majority of people I know are saying, whatever, who cares? Maybe not the listeners to this show, because you guys are informed and you're smart and you understand that in the blink of an eye, you can have an apocalypse. I think that's the most important point in all this, right? In the blink of an eye, you can have your own apocalypse. That's the issue here. It's not the fact that we have to prepare for the EMP that shuts down the power grid and all of a sudden everyone is at each other's throats. It's not really that. It's the fact that what most likely will happen in your lifetime is you'll be hit by an apocalypse. It might be a death, it might be a natural disaster, it might be an economic apocalypse, a personal economic apocalypse. What's that mean? Oh, that means the breadwinner gets laid off. Yeah, the breadwinner's laid off, and now you got to figure that out. Preparedness, this emergency preparedness, this prepping, this survival, this self-reliance movement. I'm going to make a statement that's kind of extreme, but you have to understand it's true. It's one of the only forces left that can heal the nation. What? Yes. Trust me. It's one of the only forces we have left to heal the nation. There's no division in survival. That's what you have to love about it. There is no division when it comes to survival. When you're sitting in your pantry and there's tornadoes circling, you're not worried about right wing, left wing, right? You're not worried about race. You're not worried about religion. You're not worried about equality, inequality, no quality whatsoever. You're not worried about it. It's irrelevant. And we can connect at this level. We can connect in our communities at this level, on the preparedness level, and look at each other and say, how can we best survive as a community? And in preparing for those disasters and in preparing your community for those disasters, you develop relationships, and those relationships are more powerful than the dividing forces of a Donald Trump or a Barack Obama who came out from under a rock to divide us even more. Yeah, they're more powerful. They're way more powerful than an alt-right movement, right? An empowered community with goals that they agree on, preparedness in mind. You can't tell me that isn't a force a million times as powerful as some alt-right movement and some dude with the shaved sides and the gelled comb over. You can't. You just can't tell me. I know it. I've seen it in action. I know it's possible. I know that we can exist on the plane of preparedness together as neighbors, as community members, as a nation. As a nation. And we can sew this thing together. Which brings me to my question for you, the listening audience, which is the Family Day Liberty has some vacation time in the near future, and there's going to be air travel, and there's going to be theme parks, and to be quite frank, I'm not going to be where I want to be when it comes to preparedness. So I'm calling on you, the I Am Liberty listening audience, to help me out with that. I'm flying, and there's going to be theme parks involved, and I want to be prepared, and I don't know to what extreme I'm willing to go to be prepared. You follow me? Who's gone on a trip like this through the air, battled the TSA, battled the guards at the doors of theme parks nowadays, I mean, they have a job to do. I understand that they don't know you from Adam, so they've got to be careful too. But who's fought these conditions? Preppers now. People who listen to my show, the real deal. Not the guys who watch Dual Survival. I'm talking about the real deal people who wake up every day and practice a level of EDC, a level of base preparedness that puts them in the best position possible in case of a disaster or violent attack or anything, along those lines. What do? Tell me what your plan is so that I can use it to formulate my plan, okay? Because I have to figure out what exactly what extremes am I going? Am I packing the firearm? Am I filling out the forms? Am I doing all that? Because, what does that mean for TSA? I've never flown with a firearm before, so I've never done that. I don't know what that entails, but it could be something. I'm not sure. Listen, I don't know. I want your advice. I want your experience. You can either email me at iamlibertyshow@gmail.com, or you can shoot me a contact over at the website. Just fill out a contact form and I'll get that. I'd love it. I'd love your help. I'm going to ask the same question on the Wednesday live show and see if I get any callers in to help me with this problem, because it's something I want to, I really want to get it sewn up, man. It's a big deal. I need to get it sewn up. So that's what else is on my mind. That's what's coming. There's a lot on my mind, man. It's a lot going on in this world. The book is in the editor's hand. The Christmas hook, the row home adventures of 3 9-year-olds in the 1990s on their Christmas break when they make the discovery of a strange and a little terrifying treasure. It's a hook. It's a strange hook, almost quaver shaped. And they come across this crazy hook. They dig it out of the ground at one of the favorite places they go to play, a place called The Process. And they're not allowed to be at The Process, and that's probably what makes it so exciting for them. But they find this hook, and this hook starts to do terrible and scary things to them on their Christmas break. And they have to survive it. And they have to learn from it and figure it out. All the while still enjoying Christmas in the Philadelphia suburbs in 1996. It's a hell of a book. It really is. Pat myself on the back, I will. If I don't, who will? You're going to enjoy it. You're going to enjoy it, and people are going to get a taste of this book that don't even know what I Am Liberty's all about, because with this book, I really am taking things on the road, because I finally have a book here that a broad audience would like. I'm not saying that writing preparedness books isn't great and fun and very important, but I'm a writer. So sometimes when you're a writer, you write about things that aren't, you write about everything. Whatever. If you can get onto a topic that keeps your interest. I churned this book out really fast, man. It was crazy. It's a short, I guess you could call it a novella, really, if you wanted to call it a novel. But I don't think anybody wants to read a novel about Christmas. I don't know. You want to read 100,000 words about a Christmas story? We got 30,000 words. Naturally, listen, this didn't even happen by design. The book ended at 25 chapters. The Christmas book ends on Christmas Day setting and ended with 25 chapters. That's kind of amazing to me. Very interesting. I don't know, guys. What else are we talking about? We talked about the tornadoes. We talked about the theme park prepping. I was going to talk a little bit about kids, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't think I want to get into another topic. I think we're going to keep this one right where it's at. What else? Is there anything coming up? I think the Shemagh Challenge is going to get pushed way back. I don't even know if we're going to get to it, to be honest, unfortunately. All kinds of talks with different sponsors and advertisers. I've been just barraging people, man, with with emails. It's just been part of my day now. I think that's it, guys. Listen, National Preparedness Month. I'm going to harp on it every single episode of this show from here on out, right? Halloween is coming. I read an article. Yeah, let's talk about this real quick. I just want to plug this in here to get your mind thinking about something outside the topics we discussed and outside the preparedness topics. This year, my family has decided, because I decided basically, that we're gonna celebrate the Day of the Dead, right? Which is you want to call it the Mexican tradition, but it's also celebrated in many South American countries as well. So I guess we could call it a South American tradition of giving offerings to the dead and inviting them on their one day they get to they believe that there's one day they get to travel back from the land of the dead and come to the land of the living and hang out with you, right? So the belief is that. And you lay out pillows and covers and you give them paths made of marigold so that they can find their way to your home. And then you lay out foods that they loved when they were alive. You lay out things that they loved when they were alive. And you cook various foods, breads and drinks and all sorts of different stuff to celebrate the people who've passed away in your life. And what I want to say about that, it's not to be edgy. It's not to be, smart-mouthed or anything like that or to get your attention. I sat down and I thought about this holiday. We lost a great woman. We lost my mother-in-law. My Lady Liberty's mother passed this time last year. We lost Baxter, man. We lost our pit bull, our lifelong, Michelle and I's, Lady Liberty and I's first real project. It was a 12-year-long project, this dog, right? He was our greatest friend. He was really just, he really was an amalgamation of our love. You know what I mean? Our love was the reason we went and found him. It's the reason he turned out the way he did and why he was such an incredible ambassador for his breed. And that's the deal. We're losing people, right? We've lost grandparents. Now that we're in our 30s, people start to fall off. And our family lineage is important to us, and it's important for me and for my wife to remember these people and also to tell our children about them. 2-year-old Jacob, he's not going to remember Baxter. He's not going to remember Joanne. He's not going to remember his grandma. And it's heartbreaking. We're still going to do Halloween. But the Day of the Dead is just a far superior holiday, in my opinion. Right? So I read an article last night because I've been studying this. What to put out, how to set up a nice ofrenda, right? Where you put the offerings and the pictures. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful and superior use of your time to, all right, kids, dress up in a costume, go eat sugar until you fall apart and, have a tantrum and then pass out and wake up the next day and go back to life. And I read an article about how to celebrate the Day of the Dead without culturally appropriating the holiday. Without stepping on the toes of the South Americans, right? This is obviously directed at European whites, mean old European whites who want to celebrate a holiday, right? Embracing the culture of another minority community, which is really what we should be doing, right? That's what we've done in this nation forever. Hello, the Feast of the Seven Fishes. What are we doing here? Right? Pizza, spaghetti. What are we doing? St. Patrick's Day. Come on. So anyway, I read this garbage, this vomit article, and I started thinking to myself, there was a time when I would read an article like that, and I would either get upset or I would get cautious, and I'd say to myself, oh, maybe, I don't know, seems a little weird. Do I have to worry about sending my kids to school? And then telling someone, oh, this is what we're doing. We're celebrating the Day of the Dead. And people get it. And you know what? I've reached a point where I don't care anymore. I read that article, and at the end of it, I said, man, I can't care even a little bit less than I care right now about hurting anybody's feelings about celebrating a holiday. I can't care even a little less about it. So come November 1st, which is the day that you celebrate the lost children. And come November 2nd, the day that you put your offerings out for the lost adults during the Day of the Dead, we will have an ofrenda up. We will have taken all the steps and we will have mimicked our South American brothers and sisters and how they've done it for years and years and years. And we'll follow those traditions. We'll create our own damn traditions too. And we're going to enjoy the Day of the Dead. Because that's what America is, damn it. It's not cultural appropriate this, cultural appropriate that. No. No. That's called division. That's called, this is my holiday and you can't celebrate it because of your skin color and your heritage and your background and where you come from. What are you must be crazy. So we're going to enjoy this. We're going to paint our faces up. We're going to eat some good food. We're going to sit down and talk about the people we lost in our life, because how often, ask yourself this now, how often do you gather your family around to talk about the incredible people and the creatures that you've lost in a lifetime? When do you gather the kids around and tell them the great stories of your family and your lineage? Never. Doesn't happen anymore. Something that used to happen doesn't happen anymore. What's going to happen? And you know what? I encourage you to look into the Day of the Dead. Not to spite Halloween or anything like that. You could do both. But it's a superior holiday to Halloween. It's also something America needs. Yes, America. All colors, all races, all religions, wherever you come from. I don't care if you came from Bangladesh. I don't care if you came from whatever, Uzbekistan. Doesn't matter to me. You have a family. You've lost people. Life is suffering. Life is loss. You gather the kids and the wife around and the dogs and the hamsters and the birds and you say, this is us. Right? This is us. Let's talk about it. See you Wednesday, folks, live. Don't miss it. James Walton with the I Am Liberty Show.